The 1930s and 40s was a turbulent time for the world. Colonization and expansionist policies were the order of the day. The Western powers started grouping themselves with countries of the same interests. Two groups eventually emerged, the Allies and the Axis. In line with the expansionist ambitions of many countries, Japan also started to expand their territories in the east. Meanwhile, Sarawak was ruled by the third Raja, Charles Wynebrook. Taking note of the world political condition, there were preparations to face the war. In Kuching, air raid shelters were built along Pit Lane for the European community. Britain sent a battalion of the Punjabi regiment to Sarawak to beef up the defences. All these preparations were in vain. The Japanese army landed in Miri on 16 December 1941. 1 week later, on Christmas Eve, they marched into Kuching. The Japanese occupied Sarawak for more than 3 years. It was a terrible period with lots of suffering, and the aftermath lasted a long time. Among the worst sufferings happened in the prisoner of war camp in Batu Lintang, where hundreds of prisoners, both military and civilians, perished. So it was fortunate that the occupation lasted only 3 years and 8 months. Still, the after effects lasted a long time and created a lot of drastic changes, like ending of the era of the White Rajas and the beginning of colonial Sarawak, which ultimately led to the formation of Malaysia. Fast forward to present day. Now independent within Malaysia, tourism is a very important source of income for Sarawak. Interestingly, the history and relics left behind during the war has now become tourist attractions. This is especially so for tourists from the UK, Australia and New Zealand, as historically they have a record of serving in Malaysia over several wars and conflicts. One particular tour of this nature took place recently, which to me was quite extraordinary due to the personal sharing in that tour. Since I started doing videos, I got to know many friends and we would share information about any interesting happenings. So when Edward Mansel informed me that he was going to conduct a session on Batu Lintang Camp and invited me along, I invited Judy Pearson and her husband to join us. Judy and her husband Les are from New Zealand and they are on the Sarawak, Malaysia, My Second Home program. They love to meet up with visitors from Australia and New Zealand, hence my invitation to them to join us. And that makes an interesting session for the visitors, so please watch till the end. Come on everybody, wave here.
Morning!
Good morning, morning.
These people are from Auckland.
Came here to Sarawak in 1930 as a surveyor, plans and survey within the colonial government at that stage. His role evolved over time, and by the time just a few months prior to the Japanese invasion, he was to do with air raid wardens. I can't quite remember. He had a job with air raid wardens, and then I believe the Raja happened to be in Australia, and Dad got the role of Secretary for Defence. So when the Japanese invaded, he was Secretary for Defence. He made a lot of lists of people, but he just wrote a heck of a lot about what was happening. then he got interned here. He was in the civilian camp, so you had the civilian camp and you had the military camp. He was in the civilian camp. He kept a lot of the papers that he'd written, he kept them hidden away within the camp. At night time, he used to escape from the civilian camp, disappear with help of people outside. He would receive messages from the military, updating him on what was happening, because otherwise civilians would be in the dark as to what was happening. He would bring the information back and disseminate it, then I didn't know a lot about his past until after he died, because he never talked about it. And he certainly never talked about his time in Batu Lintang. After the war, the military awarded him the MBA, which was unusual because he was a civilian, and it was the military that awarded it to him for his courage and bravery.
This is very, very interesting camp, the largest in Borneo. Borneo means British Borneo. And at the peak of it, there are three. The maximum capacity of this camp is 3,000. And people come and go, and normally there are only 2,500 or so. And who are these inhabitants here? The people, prisoner of war and internees. The camp was divided into 9 compounds. All British officers, British rank and file, Australian officers, Australian rank and file. Then you have the nuns together with the women and children. Then you have the priests, together, Roman Catholic priests, Anglican priests, they group together. And you have the rank and file, various Indonesian, Dutch, local people as well. So they make a very interesting combination of these prisoners. Life in a camp as the war progressed was very, very, very difficult. And many of these camp people, you see the road just now, they had to walk about 2 kilometers to the manual to catch the railway. It was a railway before from the town right up to the airport. And these are the people that helped to do the airport, to construct the airport. From 5 o'clock in the morning, they have to come back at 5 o'clock with nothing else. Plenty of water, but little bit of just rice, nothing more. So they were, after the war, they became very skinny, a lot of disease. So of all these 2,400 prisoners per year, 700 died and they were buried right there. And after the war, the graves were exhumed and sent to Labuan Island. The war ended 15th of August 1945, when the atomic bomb was dropped in Japan. Japan surrendered on that day, and there was an order on the 17th and 19th of 17, 18, 19, thereabout, of August. There was an order for all the prisoners here to be killed, to be shot. But Colonel Suga did not carry his duty. So he actually saved all his prisoners. If not, all the rest would be wiped out. Lintang camp was liberated on 11th of September 1945.
To commemorate and remember the Australian soldiers who died in Malaysia, in Sabah and Sarawak. Very important as a remembrance. It's a pilgrimage.
So your father was involved in the war?
Yeah, but in the Air Force down in New Guinea. So not up here in the islands. But my wife's father was here in Balikpapan, and he was in the Air Force building airfields.
Well, we're on a tour, and it's focused on ANZAC Day and remembrance of that, and but also to explore Malaysia. And the animals and wildlife and the beautiful, beautiful areas. And this is part of it. And I'm finding it intensely moving. And it's how the locals suffered. Your people suffered because of the occupation. And I think people forget, don't they? We all know horrible things happened in the camps, but the local people were starving because they had no food, because the invasion troops took it. So I just think it's good to know what happened and pay respects.
Yeah, I'm from New Zealand. And when I was first looking for tours of Borneo, it was just about the wildlife, because I didn't realise there was all this history. And then when I saw this tour with the history, I thought it was a good opportunity to come and learn and find out about it. Because Australia and New Zealand, very close.
My father was in the Navy during the Second World War, but he was on patrol boats down around New Guinea. I suppose the only thing that I could say that connects me to this area is I was with the military, and I was with an engineer unit, 13 Field Squadron, and apparently part of our history is 13 Field Company.
And they were buried in the hard grave, and then on after the war, the grave was moved to Sarawak Island, near Sabah, and then later, 1968, the move to Surabaya. One of them was right.
Different. I mean, you can see that was worn more than that one.
Yeah.
The ribbon's really faded, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a little bit worn.
Yeah, it's a thing.
It's in profile.
And into the importance of them.
You can see on your left side, there's the remains of the Punjabi barrack. But it was not like this, it was a thatched roof, and only the post is original. And when Batu Lintang Camp was turned into the So I'm very happy that you are all here and to see this place. We have a lot more to talk about the history, Japanese occupation of Sarawak, but time is a bit too short for you all. So with that, I wish you all the best, and hopefully that you come again or tell your friend to come to this month to see what happened during the Japanese time.